friendly note from my old schoolfellow Gunther Krebs, now an SS man. Gunther had joined the party early, was one of the original 16 members of the first Schutzstaffel in the Gau Hessen-Nassau and one of the first men at my firm, IG Farben, to declare himself a Nazi. Gunther's note contained an implicit threat. If I stayed in Germany, I'd have to accept what the Nazified authorities already considered my German nationality, and that meant military service in the rapidly expanding Heer or arrest and a one-way trip to someplace like Dachau. Karin, like me, held a British passport. Our parents had always seen to it that we maintained them. Our passports meant we didn't need exit visas to leave Germany. So many were so desperate to flee that by then it seemed almost obscene that the pair of us had chosen not to. But I couldn't leave without her. She called me her bodyguard. She was living in Berlin, I was in Frankfurt, but by 1938 I was as close to her as I ever was in my life to any other person. I'll say that now. The sex we had was passionate, but also, in a way, cool. It was like people taking a blood oath. Does that sound grim? Well, it wasn't. It was important, exciting to be in bed together during those years when the ethical world of Germany was crumbling. But yes, it had a ritual aspect. Bed was wild but safe for both of us, at a period when life in Germany, even for those carrying British passports, was becoming more and more precarious. Karin was more German than I'd ever be. She was also, at least after the Nuremberg laws, a Jew. She agreed that life in Germany was impossible, but she was unwilling to leave her father. A British passport guaranteed the right to live and work in any of the dominions. After receiving Gunther's letter, I'd immediately written 3 of my best Canadian customers, and the day before, Karin's telegram dropped on my desk. I was offered a job in Vancouver, selling chlorophenolic compounds and petrochemicals to lumber mills deep in the Canadian forest. It sounded terribly far from Europe, and that was all right with me. I immediately booked 2 passages for New York aboard a Holland-America liner, the SS Volendam, sailing from Rotterdam in early December. Going up to Berlin, I didn't know if I'd be able to persuade Karin to come to America, but I was determined to try. My FD Zug train arrived at the Anhalter Bahnhof at noon. I went straight away to her office in a shabby building behind the Wertheim department store on the Leipziger Platz. When she was fired from UFA after the film studio was commandeered by the Nazis, she'd first gone to work at the Zionist agency in Berlin. After a few months, she'd left them to join a small emigration bureau started by a lawyer, Stefan Koplin, also fired from UFA. Kopp would help Jews go anywhere, not just to Palestine. He was an expert at bargaining for visas from South American embassies. Karin's specialty was calculating the flight tax that had to be paid before any exit permit was granted. The formula was insanely complex, and if the slightest error was made, exit permits were gleefully withheld. But Karin had her father's head for figures. She claimed she never made mistakes. Sometimes she even persuaded her father to help her Jews pay their flight tax. Herr Philipp Kaufmann, the Baron's lawyer, objected, saying it left Weinbrenner even more vulnerable to the regime. But the Baron usually gave his daughter whatever she asked for, though he didn't approve of ordinary Jews leaving the country any more than he'd approved of the film stars and directors who were her friends quitting Berlin for Hollywood. To him, they were all Fahnenflugtiger, deserters. Baron von Weinbrenner told my father that if the Nazis wished him to leave, they'd have to pick him up, carry him to the frontier, and physically throw him out. And still he would make his way back, because Germany was his country, not theirs. Karin's office was listed as Auswanderungsberater in the lobby directory. Emigration consultants. I rode the elevator cage.